When my mother-in-law Diane announced she had stage 4 pancreatic cancer last spring, our whole world stopped. My husband James broke down completely. His father had died of cancer 3 years ago, and the thought of losing his mother too was unbearable. I should have known something was off when she refused to let us come to her doctor's appointments. Dr. Stevens is very strict about patient privacy, she'd say, dabbing at her perfectly made-up eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, and the treatments are so draining. I just need to focus on getting better. I'm a nurse in the oncology unit at Memorial Hospital. I know what cancer does to people. I know what chemotherapy looks like, but Diane never lost her hair, never lost weight. Her designer clothes still fit perfectly, her manicures were always fresh, and she somehow managed to play tennis 3 times a week despite being devastated by treatments. Different people react differently, James would say when I voiced concerns. Mom's always been strong. Then came the requests for money. First, it was $50,000 for an experimental treatment not covered by insurance. James emptied his savings account without hesitation. 2 weeks later, she needed another $75,000 for specialized medications from Europe. I hate asking, she sniffled during Sunday dinner, but Dr. Stevens says this could be my last chance. We took out a second mortgage. What choice did we have? This was James's mother, facing a deadly disease that had already taken his father. But something wasn't adding up. I started doing some digging. First red flag. There was no Dr. Stevens registered with the state medical board matching her description. When I asked for his first name, Diane always changed the subject. Second red flag. The specialized clinic, where she claimed to receive treatment, didn't exist. The address she gave was actually a luxury spa. Third red flag. Last week, I overheard her on the phone, laughing about her upcoming cruise to the Mediterranean. Not exactly the behavior of someone supposedly fighting for their life. But the final straw came yesterday. I was working late at the hospital when I saw Diane walking into the plastic surgery wing, consulting with a well-known cosmetic surgeon about a facelift. That's when I called my friend Kate at the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. A cancer scam. Kate sighed. Unfortunately, we see this more often than you'd think. How much has she taken? $250,000 from us alone, I said. And I think she's been running the same scam on other family members. Kate was right. Within 24 hours, they uncovered 3 other families Diane had scammed with various illness stories. The money trail led to luxury purchases, spa treatments, and first-class travel, not medical bills. We need to catch her in the act, Kate said. Get her to make specific claims about her doctor and treatments in front of witnesses. That's how Operation Thanksgiving was born. I invited the whole family for dinner. James's siblings, their spouses, even his elderly aunt who contributed $30,000 to Diane's treatment fund. Kate would come posing as a friend from my hospital, along with another agent playing the role of her husband. Everything was set, but at the last minute, I invited one more guest. The doorbell rang just as Diane was launching into her usual performance about her latest consultation with the mysterious Dr. Stevens. He says the treatments are working, she said, dabbing at dry eyes. But I need another $100,000 for the next phase. The insurance companies are so cruel. I opened the door to a distinguished-looking man in his 50s. Everyone, this is Agent Parker from the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. He's very interested in hearing about Dr. Stevens and these experimental treatments. The color drained from Diane's perfectly made-up face. I don't understand. I think you do, Mrs. Harrison, Agent Parker said quietly. We've been investigating your financial transactions. There are no medical treatments, are there? No Dr. Stevens. Just a lot of stolen money and elaborate lies. James stood up so quickly his chair fell backward. Mom? What is he talking about? But Diane was already grabbing her purse, backing toward the door. This is ridiculous. How dare you ambush me during a family dinner? I'm a sick woman. Are you? I pulled out a folder. Because according to the plastic surgeon you consulted yesterday, you're in perfect health. You were planning a facelift with the money you scammed from your own children. Children who emptied their savings to save your life, Agent Parker added, while you spent their money on luxury cruises and spa treatments. The room erupted into chaos. James's sister, Sarah, burst into tears. She'd sold her car to contribute to her mother's treatment fund. His aunt looked like she might faint. It's not what you think. Diane tried, but her voice had lost its convincing tremor. I can explain. Explain what, Mom? James's voice was barely a whisper. Explain how you faked having the same disease that killed Dad. How you watched me break down thinking I was going to lose you too. That's when Kate stepped forward, pulling out her FBI badge. Mrs. Harrison, we have documented evidence of wire fraud, medical insurance fraud, and theft by deception across state lines. You need to come with us. James, Diane reached for her son. You can't let them do this. I'm your mother. But James turned away, his shoulders shaking. My mother died the moment she decided to fake cancer for money. As the agents led Diane away, I heard her muttering about calling her lawyer. But we had everything documented. Every lie, every stolen dollar, every fake medical story she used to manipulate her family. The worst part? We found receipts in her designer handbag for non-refundable deposits on that Mediterranean cruise. She'd been planning her luxury vacation with our money while we lay awake at night, worried sick about her non-existent cancer. The days following Thanksgiving were a blur of FBI interviews and devastating discoveries. Each hour brought new revelations about Diane's elaborate web of lies, and each one cut deeper than the last. We've traced similar scams going back 3 years, Agent Parker explained, spreading documents across our dining room table. Right after your father-in-law died, she started using his genuine cancer journey as a template for her cons. The evidence was sickening. Diane had kept detailed notes about her late husband's symptoms, treatments, and medical terminology. She used this information to make her own fake cancer story convincing, right down to naming specific chemotherapy drugs she'd supposedly been taking. She even joined cancer support groups, Kate added, pulling up social media posts. Not for emotional support, for research. She was studying how real cancer patients talked about their experiences so she could mimic them. James sat in silence, staring at his mother's meticulous fraud notebooks. She'd written scripts for different scenarios, how to act in front of doctors, what side effects to claim, even how to make her voice sound weak on days she was supposedly post-treatment. The total amount is much larger than we initially thought, Agent Parker continued. Beyond the $250,000 from you and James, she's taken approximately $600,000 from other sources. The list of victims was heartbreaking. James's sister, Sarah, had not only sold her car, but also pulled her kids out of private school to help with Mom's treatment. Their aunt had taken out a reverse mortgage on her house. Even Diane's church congregation had raised $50,000 for their beloved sister in Christ. How did none of us see it? Sarah whispered during a family meeting. She was at my daughter's soccer game the same day she claimed to be having major surgery. The answer lay in Diane's phones. She had 3 of them. One for family, one for her luxury lifestyle, and one for coordinating her scams. Text messages revealed her system. She'd schedule fake treatments for times she knew we'd be at work, then spend those hours at spas or shopping. Look at this, I said, showing James a credit card statement. The day you were crying in our bedroom because she claimed the cancer had spread. She was getting a $900 facial and booking a villa in Greece. But the cruelest discovery came when we found her diary. In it, Diane had written about using her late husband's cancer as inspiration for her scheme. Robert's illness showed me how easily people open their wallets when they think you're dying, she'd written. No one questions a cancer patient. No one asks to see medical records when you're sobbing about experimental treatments. It's the perfect con. James threw up when he read that entry. The FBI investigation revealed even more layers to Diane's deception. She had created fake medical bills using templates bought from the dark web. She'd even purchased a doctor's coat and stethoscope to take fake medical selfies, carefully angled to hide her face while showing just enough medical equipment to seem legitimate. Your mother-in-law ran this scam like a business, Kate explained. She had spreadsheets tracking which family members gave money, how much more she could probably get from each person, and notes on their emotional vulnerabilities. Those spreadsheets were devastating. Next to Sarah's name, very responsive to mentions of her children growing up without a grandmother. Next to James's, still traumatized by father's death, bring up memories to ensure maximum sympathy. The luxury evidence was equally damning. While we were draining our savings and taking out loans, Diane had spent $42,000 on designer clothing, $38,000 on spa treatments, $85,000 on luxury vacations, $15,000 on weekly tennis lessons at an exclusive club, $25,000 on jewelry, $45,000 on a new Mercedes she claimed was borrowed from a friend. The level of planning is astounding, Agent Parker said. She even researched which makeup products would give her a sickly appearance for family visits, while maintaining her glamorous look for her social life. Then came the photos, hundreds of them, showing Diane living a double life. In family pictures, she posed looking tired and weak, wearing carefully selected, sick clothes. But her social media accounts under fake names showed her partying on yachts, playing tennis, and lounging at luxury resorts, often on the same day she claimed to be undergoing grueling treatments. The most shocking photo was dated last month. While telling us she was too weak to eat, Diane had competed in a tennis tournament at her country club. She'd won first place. "I don't understand," James said during another FBI interview. "Did she ever feel guilty? Did she ever think about what this was doing to us?" The answer came in another diary entry. "James called crying today about my latest test results. These emotional displays are exhausting to deal with, but they're excellent leverage for the next funding request. I've calculated I can get another $100,000 from them before moving on to phase 2 of the plan." Phase 2, we learned, involved faking a miraculous recovery and then using her status as a survivor to launch a fraudulent cancer charity. She'd already designed the website. Sarah found something else. A secret Instagram account where Diane mocked her victims. She'd posted photos of her luxury purchases with captions like "cancer perks" and "better than chemo." The account had hundreds of followers, apparently other scammers sharing tips and tricks. "Your mother-in-law was part of an entire network of fake illness scammers," Kate explained. "They call themselves players and share advice on how to manipulate families for maximum profit." As the evidence mounted, James grew quieter. The mother he thought he knew, the woman he'd been desperately trying to save, had never existed. In her place was a calculating con artist who had weaponized his grief over his father's death for her own gain. But the worst was yet to come, because we just discovered Diane's next planned scam, and it involved faking her own death for insurance money. The final confrontation with Diane happened in an FBI interrogation room 3 days before she planned to fake her own death. She sat there in her designer outfit, somehow still managing to look elegant in handcuffs, as Agent Parker laid out the evidence of her next scheme. "A boating accident," he said, spreading the documents across the table. "You'd already purchased a small yacht, taken out life insurance policies, and had plans to disappear to Brazil under the name Maria Santos. The policies would have paid out $2 million to a shell corporation you controlled." For the first time, Diane's composed mask cracked. "How did you find out?" "I finished stepping into the room with James. The same way we caught your cancer scam. You got sloppy. Too many loose ends, too many people you underestimated." The insurance investigator had found red flags. Multiple recently purchased high-value policies, all with suspicious beneficiary arrangements. Diane had even begun telling people she was taking up sailing as part of my recovery journey. "Would you really have let your children think you were dead?" James asked quietly. "Let them grieve another parent?" Diane's face hardened. "Oh please, you're all so pathetically emotional. Do you know how exhausting it was watching you cry over my fake cancer? Always wanting to visit, to help, to talk about feelings." She rolled her eyes. "At least I could turn your annoying sensitivity into profit." The cruelty of her words hit James like a physical blow. This woman had watched him suffer, had calculated exactly how to maximize his pain for financial gain, and felt nothing but annoyance at his love for her. The prosecution built an airtight case. Between the financial fraud, the interstate wire transfers, and the attempted insurance scam, Diane was facing serious prison time. But it was her network of fellow scammers that interested the FBI most. "We've identified 12 other fake illness scammers connected to your mother-in-law," Kate told us later. "They call themselves the Sympathy Circle. They shared tactics, forged medical documents, even traded lists of vulnerable targets." Diane's sentencing hearing was a study in contrasts. She arrived wearing prison orange but still perfectly coiffed, attempting to maintain her socialite facade. But as victim after victim testified of the emotional and financial devastation she caused, that facade began to crack. My children lost their college fund because of her lies, Sarah testified, her voice shaking. They asked me last week if Grandma ever really loved them, or if they were just part of her con. The judge was unswayed by Diane's last-minute performance of remorse. Mrs. Harrison, you didn't just steal money, you stole people's trust, their compassion, their capacity to believe in human goodness. You exploited the tragic death of your husband to manipulate your own children. This court sentences you to 15 years in federal prison. As they led her away, Diane called out one last time, James, you can't let them do this to your mother. But James turned away. My mother died 3 years ago, right after Dad. The woman I've known since then was just a character you played to steal our money. The aftermath was both healing and painful. The FBI recovered some of the stolen funds, enough to help Sarah get her kids back into their school and pay off our second mortgage. Diane's luxury purchases were auctioned off to provide restitution to her victims. Her cancer support group was devastated to learn the truth. They'd spent months comforting her, sharing their genuine struggles with a woman who was only mining them for convincing details to use in her scam. The hardest part, one real cancer survivor told us, is knowing she used our real pain as research for her fake story. James started therapy to process the dual trauma of losing his father to real cancer and his mother to her own sociopathic greed. Slowly, he began to separate his real memories of family life from the elaborate performance his mother had orchestrated. 1 year after Diane's arrest, we held a different kind of family gathering, a healing ceremony where we burned her fake medical documents and diary. As we watched the papers turn to ash, James finally smiled. You know what's strange? He said. I've spent a year angry at her for faking cancer, but now I realize the cancer wasn't the fake part. The fake part was her pretending to be a mother who loved us. Sarah found a way to turn pain into purpose, starting a support group for victims of illness scammers. There are more of us than you'd think, she explained. People who gave their savings to someone they loved only to discover it was all a lie. As for me, I keep the evidence file from Diane's case. Not to dwell on the pain, but to remind myself that sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones who weaponize love and compassion against their victims. Diane will be eligible for parole in 12 years. Sometimes I wonder if she spends her days in prison planning her next scam, or if she ever thinks about the real human cost of her crimes. But then I look at James, finally healing, finally free from her manipulation, and I realize it doesn't matter.